Some startups go up, others go down. Welcome to GeekWire's Elevator Pitch, where 3 entrepreneurs pitch their businesses in the 48 seconds it takes to get to the top of Seattle's first skyscraper, the Smith Tower. Over the course of 9 episodes, we'll narrow the field from 27 entrepreneurs to 1 winner. In this episode of Elevator Pitch, presented by Smartsheet, we'll hear from 3 startup founders as they pitch their emerging businesses to our panel of leading investors and entrepreneurs. T.A. McCann, a serial software entrepreneur, professional sailor, and managing director at Pioneer Square Labs. He sold his last company to Google and counts Rival IQ and more than a half dozen other startups to his name. Jennifer Saran, Smartsheet CFO and Stockpile Inc. investor, who has banked executive experience at companies including Box, Quotient, and eBay. Heather Redmond, power broker and former Getty Images executive, who cuts deals as the managing director of venture capital firm Flying Fish Partners. The clock is ticking. Jump on board and ride with us on the elevator pitch and find out which entrepreneur has what it takes to make it to the top.
My name is Haneen. I am CEO and co-founder of Locumunity.
Welcome to Smith Tower.
As a physician, I noted that there is no cost-effective way for medical facilities to connect with job-seeking physicians. The temporary healthcare staffing industry is a $16 billion industry dominated by expensive recruitment agencies. Locumunity creates a centralized marketplace that directly connects job-seeking physicians with medical facilities. We strive to be a data and community-driven platform. We launched in Canada April 2017 and have 13% of temporary doctors registered. During Techstars Seattle, we launched a test pilot in Washington State, and in a short period of time, we're able to create partnerships with some of the most trusted and respected names in healthcare.
So is this a service where me as a graduating physician would go to try to find my first job, or is it more for folks that are seeking to move from one location to another?
For both, we're trying to follow the physician throughout their life stages, so trying to get them during residency, so that is one of our marketing campaigns is for residency programs, and then trying to follow the physician throughout their lifestyle and life stages and provide them value in the job search throughout that. So whether they're looking for permanent or temporary or telehealth, we're that platform for you.
Tell me more about how the business works.
We basically switched to a transaction-based revenue model in Canada recently, and so what happens is the medical facility pays Locumunity the physician wage plus a transaction fee, and then we pay the physician their wage, and so that way they're guaranteed every 2 weeks they're getting paid, they're not waiting for government reimbursements to come through, et cetera, et cetera.
About how many transactions have you done so far, or placements have you had in Canada or the US?
So in Canada, we just switched to that transaction-based revenue model from a subscription-based. July 16th was our official launch. We had 40 clinics sign contracts saying they're willing to pay. We've had already 1 locum placement go through, and we have 3 upcoming ones in the next month.
So why is this better for the employers?
Because you're connecting them with a large pool of qualified candidates that they otherwise wouldn't have come across. A lot of connections right now happen word of mouth, in the hallways. It's very inefficient, fragmented job posting boards. There's no cohesive way for these medical facilities to access candidates across the country.
So not cheaper, just better?
And cheaper, yes. So in Canada, we're filling a void. Recruitment agencies are not very well used because they are very expensive, and then there's fragmented government job posting boards, and there's nothing in between, and that's where Locumunity is coming through. In the US, it's very heavily dominated by recruitment agencies that charge very high commissions, 30 to 60% commission, and so we are coming in the US at a 15% transaction fee, which definitely is undercutting the competitor by 50%.
And do you get just this one-time transaction fee, or do you get a cut of the physician's salary over time?
It's the cut of the physician's salary over time. So if you can think of it per day or per hour, it's a transaction fee. So if they work longer, obviously then it's a higher cut. So it's a cut of the total salary paid to the physician. We do have a flat fee for permanent placements.
Given that you're faster and better, what's standing in the way of growth?
Funding for us has been the main thing to expand into the US. We don't want to spread ourselves too thin, handling two markets. In Canada, really, it's the marketing and having the budget to do lots of marketing. The more I do this, the more I truly see the need and the desperation of these clinics wanting to find this coverage and wanting to link up with physicians.
So what do you think of the platform?
Well, I've tracked this company for a while, and it's surprising to me that if they're actually better and cheaper, that they can't get more traction. I mean, we've effectively done one transaction, and I can't figure out if it's more of the demand side or the workflow doesn't want to change, or I just can't figure out why they can't get more velocity.
I suspect it's the workflow. I mean, I think about doctors and lawyers and medical institutions in particular as being sort of the most reluctant to change and having the most barriers to change. I would suspect they're going to have a great deal of difficulty penetrating rapidly in this market.
Well, one thing that I really like about this business is that it sits in the middle of a transaction. There's real money, there's presumably people on both sides of that transaction, that the marketplace matching component of it is relatively straightforward from a technical perspective that we could all well understand that most recruiting firms are not doing a very good job of. And you actually sit where there's money to be spent and presumably some level of pain on both sides of the marketplace.
I thought it was interesting as well that her go-to-market right now is knocking on doors of clinics. So the demand is not coming to her through any kind of marketing effort. It's her really having to go and explain why it's different, which sort of goes in line with your comment about maybe this workflow isn't going to be appropriate for physicians.